I 로봇 아이작 아시모브 One man saw it coming. This is Western caught sight of them the minute they rose above the masking top along grass and retired inside the house to wait. I've saved myself a horse, Gloria, he said seriously. Where are you? I was with Robbie, quavered Gloria. I was telling him Cinderella, and I forgot it was dinner time. Well, it's a pity Robbie forgot too. Then as if that reminded her of her Robert's presence, she hauled upon him. You may go, Robbie. She doesn't need you now. Then, brutally, and don't come back till I call you. Robbie turned to go, but hesitated as Gloria cried out in his defense. Wait, Mama, you got to let him stay. I didn't finish Cinderella's for him. I said I would tell him Cinderella, and I'm not finished. Gloria, I understand truly, Mama. He'll stay so quiet. You won't even know he's here. He can sit on the chair on the corner, and she won't say a word. I mean, he won't do anything. Will you, Robbie? Robbie appeared to nodded his massive heave up and down once. Gloria, if we don't stop this at once, you shan't see Robbie for a whole week. The girl's eye fell. All right, but Cinderella is his favorite story, and I didn't finish it, and he liked it so much. The robot left with a disconsolate step, and Gloria choked back a shot. George Weston was comfortable. He was a habit of his to be comfortable on Sunday afternoons. A good, hearty dinners below the hatches. A nice, soft, dilapidated couch on which to sprawl. A copy of Times, slippered feet, and shirtless chest. How could anyone help but be comfortable? He wasn't pleased, therefore. Then his wife walked. After 10 years for married life, he still was so unutterably foolish as to love her, and there was no question that he was always glad to show. Still Sunday afternoon, just after dinner, were sacred to him, and his idea of solid comfort was left in utter solitude for 2 or 3 hours. Consequently, he fixed his eye firmly upon the latest report of the Labri Yoshida expedition to Mars. This one was a takeoff from lunar base and might actually succeed, and pretended she wasn't there. Mrs. Weston waited patiently for 2 minutes, then impatiently for 2 more, and finally broke the silence. George. George, I said, will you put down the paper and look at me? The paper rustled to the floor, and Weston turned a weary face toward his wife. What's it, dear? You know what it is, George. It's Gloria, and the terrible machine. What terrible machine? Now, don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. It's the robot Gloria calls Robbie. He doesn't leave her for a moment. Well, why should he? He's not supposed to, and he certainly isn't a terrible machine. He's the best darn robot money can buy, and I'm damned sure he sent me back half a year's income. He's worth it, though. Then sight cleverer than half my office staff. He made a move pick up the paper again, but his wife was quicker and snatched it away. You listen to me, Georgie. I won't have my daughters entrusted to a machine. and I don't care how clever it is. It has no soul, and no one knows what it may be thinking. A child just is made to be guided by a thing of metal. Watson frowned. What did you decide this? He's been with Gloria 2 years now, and I haven't seen you worry till now. It was different at first. It was a novelty. It took a load off me, and it was a fashionable thing to do. But now I don't know the neighbors well. What have the neighbors to do with it? Now, look, a robot is infinitely more to be trusted than a human nursemaid. Robbie was constructed for only one purpose, really to be the companion of a little child. His entire mentality has been created for the purpose. He just can't help being fruitful and loving and kind. He's a machine made so. That's more than you can say for humans. But something might go wrong. Miss Wilson was a bit hazy about the inside of a robot. Some little jigger will come loose and awful things go berserk and she couldn't bring herself to complete the quite obvious thought. Nonsense, Weston denied, with an involuntary, nervous shiver. That's completely ridiculous. We had a long discussion at the time in our lobby about the first law of robotics. You know that it's impossible for a robot to harm a human being. That long before enough can go wrong to alter the first law, a robot would be completely inoperable. It's a mathematical impossibility. Besides, I have an engineer from US Robots here twice a year to give a poor gadget a complete overhaul. While there's no more chance to anything at all going wrong with Robbie, then there is a view or I suddenly going loony. Considerable less, in fact. Besides, how are you going to take him away from Gloria? He made another futile step at the paper and his wife tossed angrily into the next room. That's just it, George. She won't play with anyone else. There are dozens of little boys and girls she should make friends with, but she won't. She won't go near them unless I make her. There's no way for little girls to grow up. You want her to normal, don't you? You want her to be able to take her part in society. You are jumping at shadows, Grace. Pretend robots a dog. I've been hundreds of children who would rather have their dogs than their father. A dog is different, George. We must get rid of that horrible things. You can send it back to the company. I've asked if you can. You've asked? Now look here, Grace. Let's not go off the deep end. You are keeping the robot until Gloria is older and I don't want the subject brought it up again. And with that, he walked out the room in a huff. Mrs. Weston met her husband at the door 2 evenings later. You'll have to listen to this, George. There's a bad feeling in the village. About what? asked Weston. He stepped into the washroom and drowned out any possible answer by the splash of water. Mrs. Weston waited. She said, about Robbie. Weston stepped out, towel in hand, face red and angry. What are you talking about? Oh, it's been building up and building up. I've tried to close my eyes to it, but I'm not going to anymore. Most of the believers consider Robbie dangerous. Children aren't allowed to go near our place in the evening. We trust our children with a thing. Well, people aren't reasonable about these things. Then to hell with them. Saying that doesn't solve the problem. I've got to do my shopping down there. I've got to meet them every day, and it's even worse in the city these days when it comes to robot. New York has just passed an ordinance keeping all robots off the street between sunset and sunrise. Alright, but they can't stop us from keeping a robot in our home. Grace, this is one of your campaign. I recognize it, but it's no use. The answer is still no. You are keeping Robbie. And yet he loved his wife, and what was his wife doing? George Weston, after all, was only a man, poor thing, and his wife made full use of every device which clumsier and more scrupulous sex has learned with reason and brutality to fear. 10 times in the ensuing week he cried, "Robbie stays," and that's final. And each time it was weaker and accompanied by a louder and more agonized groan. Came the day at last, and when Weston approached his daughter guiltily and suggested a beautiful fishy box show in the village. Gloria clapped her hand happily. "Can Robbie go?" "No, dear," he said, and winced the sound of his voice. "They won't allow Robert at the VC box, but you can tell him all about it when you get home." He stumbled all over the last few words and looked away. Gloria came back from town bubbling over with enthusiasm, for the V-Box have been gorgeous spectacle indeed. She waited for her father to maneuver to jet car into the sunken garage. "Wait till I tell you, Robbie, Daddy." He would have liked it like anything, especially when Francis Friend was backing away so quickly, so quietly, and backed right into one of the leopard men and had to run. She laughed again. "Daddy, are there really leopard men on the moon?" "Probably not," said Weston absently. "It's just funny making believe." He couldn't take much longer with the car. He had to face it. Gloria ran across the lawn. "Robbie, Robbie!" Then she stopped suddenly at the sight of a beautiful collie with regard her out of serious brown eyes as he wagged its tail on the porch. "Oh, what a nice dog!" Gloria climbed the steps, approached cautiously, and petted it. "Is it for me, Daddy?"